Lord is showing you to do, because right now, and I've saw this in the codes for back September, or the month of September and October. Satan is very, very on to us now. Very on to the warriors, the Oregon warriors, very on to us. He has that legislation, that hate thought, homegrown terrorism legislation. I saw that coming in September. Eventually they're going to ban and outlaw the making of Oregon. They're doing it in a subtle way now, calling it homegrown terrorism without coming out and saying it's Oregon. Different ways of doing things, because they're going to literally just try to put a stop to the whole thing. They're coming after us. Legislation, they have to disguise their language, their terms, and what they're doing. But people who are warriors have already seen the effects of Satan's angels coming after them through the government, through his own demonic beings, being harassed, seeing the helicopters over your house, the military, the government stalking and harassing, demonic stalking and harassing at night. And I've been telling you guys to put Oregon in your bedrooms. It'll keep the aliens out. It doesn't affect humans. Humans have no ill regard toward Oregon unless they're demonically possessed. Most of these are. Most that are working Satan's agenda are. And so it will limit them from even wanting to come into your rooms at night, from making portals right into your homes. They can walk right in at night and harass you, try to kill you, with their microwave weapons. I've gone through it all. I know a lot of you out there are too. And it's just a literal war. It's a literal war behind the scenes. It's coming out in the front scenes with some of this legislation coming out, so they can start calling us terrorists. And that's what their basis is going to be, to start throwing Christians, the remnant of the bride, her offspring, the residue, into jail, in death, in prison, and encampments, because Satan's angry. I've always said we've got a welcome party waiting for him here on earth, and he always arrives angry. No matter how many ways you look at it, his arrival, when he arrives to earth, he's angry, and that's because we're going to be able to destroy so many of his forces and his plans. He's going to have to go to plan B, C, D, and E, because we've destroyed all of his plan A's. And he's not going to be able to take the routes he has planned to take. And that's why he's wroth. He's angry with the woman. He's furious. And so many at that point will die, just because they love the Lord and they won't renounce him. And then you have, later, even after he begins his persecution on the saints, because he just comes after them because he hates them. He hates them. He's angry. Look at the beasts of Revelation chapter 13. Don't push events where they don't occur yet, And the first beast begins his persecution of the saints, and then later, the second beast is the one who instigates the worship of the beast and the mark. Well, that comes after his initial persecution of the saints. And so, there's going to be a lot of death and destruction. And the first thing Satan does when he comes to earth is come towards the bride. Okay? And so a lot of you out there who are in churchdom, totally unprepared for the events that are coming, because the churches are putting you to sleep with false teachings, false interpretations. And that's why I always encourage everyone to just pray and ask the Lord for the truth in all things, so that he can reveal to you these last days events. Let him reveal them to you. I mean, I get pieces here and there, and every time I get a piece, I give it to you guys. I write an article, I do a radio show, and so that's why we're in this for a couple weeks at a time now, because he gives in pieces as he reveals things. And so it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I don't know how many times I've heard this theology where there's only one group and there are 12,000 Jewish male virgins. And if you look at the Strong's terms, it's obvious from translations. If you look at the face of it, okay, But if you really do a word study on the words that are translated wrong, you get a whole different picture. You get a whole different picture. And I've done a word breakdown of Revelation chapter 14, and how this group is found without guile. They're found without witchcraft and apostasy, because the Lord has pulled them out of the apostate churches of today, and they have the truth of the knowledge of the Lord in them, not filled with this mind-controlled apostate religion that Satan runs and controls today. And so there's your virgins. They're found without guile. They're found without witchcrafts and apostasies. And I have that in my article, Yahweh's Warriors, the two armies of 144,000. And so I'm going to stop with that for tonight. Stop there. And try to get into some questions here. I may do questions next week because I'm a little bit talked out. I'm just talked out. Sit here and talk. But I think that's what I'll do. I think I'll just do some questions next week and whatever else the Lord reveals to me during this week on these groups. But the main part is that I wanted to stress tonight is that one group sealed here on earth by the angels of God with a seal is not the same thing as a group standing before the Lord in heaven getting their name, His name, written on their foreheads. It's two totally different places, two totally different groups, and two totally different beings that are doing the sealing or the writing. Because God Himself will write His name on our foreheads. Isn't that awesome? And so it's just two different groups, folks, in two different places. And so once you split that apart and put them where they go in your timeline of events, things will start to shape up as to how things are going to be happening in the last days. And that's when it gets exciting. There is a lot to look forward to. I mean, just you know, I know we get bogged down and tired and just fed up with things here on earth and the way things are. But we have a lot to look forward to. Especially if the first group was taken up early next year. That would be a lot of fun. I'm prepared to go the long haul. I'm prepared to suffer. If He changes His mind, that's what He wants me to do, us to do, fine. Whatever. We're His warriors, We just do as He asks, what He commands, and we go with it from there. It's just a part of being willing that He wants, folks. He wants us to be willing to do anything for Him, willing to die for Him. And I keep seeing it over and over again, that every time He gets you to where you could care less about this life, you would die for Him in a second, then He decides He's going to make you live for a while. It's just like, oh well, whatever. Because, I mean, even in my own life, I've known of assassination attempts coming, and pretty sure at some of these intervals that one would be successful or that I would be imprisoned. And the Lord has prepared me for those, and then He's changed His mind and said, no, ain't happening. He just wants to know if we're willing. I think it's just part of His testing. And so, not always a test, sooner or later going to come down to the real thing. Will you die for the Lord? Because millions are going to be required to. Millions will be. But there will be one group on earth who will never taste of death, and that's 144,000 of chapter 14. They will never taste of death. Anyway, until next week, everybody, God bless.